Initiating sound check. Preparing and initiating pan test. Pan test left. Pan test right. Left. Right. Pan test complete. Sound check now complete. All systems are ready.
I gotta close the window before I record, cause New York don't know how to be quiet.
What up, my fellow Knicks fans? This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and don't panic quite yet. Now, first off, round of applause for this Knicks squad. They got through the toughest part of the season, which is the start. The offense is looking pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Going up against the Orlando Magic, a defense, even though they had quite a few injuries, a defense that's still pretty stout, number 2 in the league. Our offense made easy work out of them, and I did not really expect this early on. I thought this offense would start looking like this more towards, I would say, late December, early January, or even mid-January, just to get all the kinks and just the chemistry down pat, especially on the defensive end. But the start has not been bad. Not bad at all. The only thing is that the Knicks missed quite a few measuring tests, just to measure the team's temperature, where they at. The Phoenix Suns had quite a few injuries. The Dallas Mavericks didn't have Luka. And the New Orleans Pelicans, they got quite a few 3-and-D players. We missed a good chance going up against a team with a lot of size and length, just to see how the squad does dealing with that situation. But we did get quite a few good different scenarios to see where this team is at. For starters, I would say the games against the Pacers, Rockets, Atlanta Hawks, and the Utah Jazz were good situations in which to see how the team operates when down from behind, especially on the road. Could they put together a great combination of defensive stops as well as timely buckets? And the games against the 76ers, Chicago Bulls, and Brooklyn Nets were a perfect example of how the team can close out while maintaining a short lead heading down the stretch. So as the season progressed, we'll continue to look at the game film of how this team's characteristics begin to form throughout the season, because this is going to be a long work in progress all the way up until April. So my fellow Knicks fans, we got to definitely be patient. And early on, we missed a few gems. We missed a few gems for sure. We didn't get Luka, we didn't get Kevin Durant, and we didn't get Pablo Banchero. It would have been nice to see the Knicks go up against a team with multiple shooters, at least 3, and them also going up against a team I would say that will rival us the same way the Cleveland Cavaliers will this season, which is the Orlando Magic. That combination with Pablo and with that starting unit, it's going to get a bit tricky, but this is going to be a good season, good year. A lot of interesting games will be on the docket from night to night. And man, I would say heading into this parity league, Adam Silver got himself an NFL style type of NBA right now, where every team is sort of in it in a way. There's a lot of talent out there, and from night to night, the Knicks are going to show out. And it's something definitely the whole tri-state area could be proud of. Round of applause for yourselves. Fuck it. Yes, we're about to get it in. It's about to be a good, interesting year. And there's a few interesting things on the docket today. A little bit more nuanced based, from James Dolan getting pushed back from Adam Silver with the promotion of Jalen Brunson's pops. And Dolan's forever going to be at it with Adam Silver right there over backdooring his MSG business, low key. But yeah, we'll hear from Donte DiVincenzo about the NBA scheduling. He dropped quite a few gems, and also Paul George. They spoke on the new style of NBA scheduling and how it affects today's players when it comes to practice time, and also them recovering from previous injuries. And we'll get even deeper into the nuanced bag on what happened to basketball in New York City. I can't believe in the past 10 to 12 years, there has not been a top 50 high school player coming out of New York City. And when I say New York City, I'm talking about Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, the Heights, East Harlem, and of course, I'm not going to forget Staten Island. We ain't forget you. But it's unfortunate that is the reality. So we'll see what's going on in some of the inner dynamics of what's playing out around the city, and we'll take a look at some of the people that's helping to fix and alleviate this situation. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. It's going to be more nuanced based, and we definitely going to get deeper into that bag. So Mark Cuban did a pop-up on Jalen Brunson's show, The Roommates. And I'm always saying, this media landscape right now is very interesting, because recently it was made known to the public that Mark Cuban actually filed an injunction against the Knicks for how the Jalen Brunson situation played out. He accused the Knicks of tampering, and the Knicks were doxxed a second-round pick. Again, this information was already known by the parties, but the fact that the information got out, it's almost 2 years later. But it reveals a lot of the poker faces Mark Cuban has put up when he was always asked about how he felt about Brunson getting away. But we're going to break this down layer by layer. First, we're going to hear from exactly when Mark Cuban actually thought Jalen Brunson was valuable. And it's important we start off right exactly here, because the season he's referring to, Jalen Brunson had put in work real early on because Luka got hurt for about a 10-game stretch. And it wasn't the only time that season where Brunson had to step up and fill in for Luka, who was in and out the lineup, even heading into the playoffs. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I mean, we knew he was good and getting better, but really it wasn't until that Utah series that he really got a chance to shine and show what he was about. I mean, when he came in and, Luka was hurt, he went from being a good player to, scoring 41 JB, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're thinking we're going to go down 0-2. I mean, not expecting it, but everybody's thinking we're going down 0-2. And JB comes in and just turns the playoffs around for us.
Man, he was okay. My man was dancing on Donovan Mitchell. Yo, at this point, Mark Cuban seen Jalen Brunson in early mid-November to December without Luka. He's seen a 10-game stretch where Brunson was putting up good numbers. And for Brunson to do it again in the playoffs against the Utah Jazz in the first few games without Luka, a light bulb should have went off on his head, especially when he saw Julius Randle and some of the Knicks front office people show up to that game.
And comes back and fits right back in, because that's a big part of what made JB special is he knew what he needed to do at the time he needed to do it, and he knew how to fit the rest of the time, and when you had Luka getting all the attention, jerked at the beginning, and we just kept on getting better. And, in between all that, it was COVID. And so, you really couldn't tell how good somebody was, because you had guys just coming in and out, even up to that 22-23 season, there were guys coming in and out. But once we hit the playoffs and we were playing good teams, and the Mavs hadn't got out of the first round since the championship year, that's when JB really showed who he could be.
So now we hear directly from Mark Cuban of when he thought Jalen Brunson was valuable to him. And that is important because Jalen Brunson throughout that season numerous times approached Cuban on over about $55 million extension, and Cuban just kept on pushing it back until there was a point of no return.
To just talk a little bit about Jalen's kind of free agency process and what that all was like from the owner's side, and Jalen what that was like from the player's side.
I'll let Mark go first. Because
No, I'll let you go.
No, I'll let Mark go first. Me and Mark have had plenty of conversations. I won't say plenty. I'll say
couple,
2 to 3 maybe. So from my perspective, after we play the game, after we lose Game 5 in Western Conference Finals, I remember seeing on Twitter, it was Mark did a post game interview. It was with our crew or whatever. Yep. And Mark was like, "Hey, we can pay him the most money." And that was the main thing I saw from the thing. We can pay him the most money.
And that's a fact. Yeah, that's a fact.
And so I saw that, and obviously you go into free agency, and you start seeing all these moves and that the Knicks are making and all this stuff. And then obviously my dad going to the Knicks.
And that right there is when Mark Cuban realized he just fucked up. The light bulb went off on his head instantly, because the way the Knicks finessed things during that draft, it was beautiful to see. And I know a lot of teams are watching because they got rid of a lot of freshly new contracts. I mean, the 2022 draft, they did this in 3 parts. They swapped picks with the Hornets. They acquired a 2023 first round pick and 4 second rounders in exchange for the rights of Jalen Duren. Then they traded Kemba Walker and the rights to Jalen Duren to the Pistons. In exchange for the Bucks, 2025 first round pick, top 4 protected. And the third part was them actually freeing up an additional $20 million by sending Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel for the rights of an international player and a future second round pick to the Pistons. The Knicks just freed up an extra $100 million. And this is where he was trying to gauge the market, what they're going to offer Brunson. And a lot of teams today do this. And the new CBA actually makes it easier for owners to gain the leverage. We're seeing it happen to Cam Thomas in Brooklyn. They don't want to trade him. They're actually willing to let him test the open market as a restricted free agent. Julius Randle, as well as Brandon Ingram, 2 players that are pretty productive, put up decent numbers, but they're going to have a hard time trying to get a contract above $35 million a year. Not too many teams have the cap space right now to take on that type of salary. So owners right now actually have the leverage to let those guys go test out the open market and perhaps get him to come back and negotiate at a lower rate. My man Jimmy Butler going through the same thing in Miami. Pat Riley's willing to risk it. These guys understand that with teams so scared of going over that second apron in the luxury tax. So if you're a free agent and you're not a superstar, but you're a productive star, you're around that middle tier, it's scary times for you to enter that marketplace.
So then I'm like, all right, that's interesting. Like, that's something that like is very unique, and like I just don't know how could I live with myself if I didn't like at least explore that option. That's one. Okay. And so we go into free agency, right? And then I have a meeting with the Knicks, and then after the Knicks is a scheduled meeting with the Mavs, right? Is everything I'm saying factual so far, Mark?
Kind of, sort of, except for the meeting part wasn't quite the way it was set up, right? Because they wanted us to come to New York, and we were like, okay, but what are we going to discuss? We need to have some reference on what we're going to be talking about if we come to New York.
Now that's interesting right there. If you would think if you're willing to really get him back, you would just come out there anyway. We've seen OKC do it for Kevin Durant. They went all the way out there in Long Island. I don't know, somewhere by Montauk. It was way far out east. So if the player is valuable enough, these guys will make the trip. They don't have to ask, what are we going to talk about? Once again, Mark Cuban, that year, all season long, he showed Jalen Brunson he doesn't think he's as valuable as he is.
Right.
And, we're like, we want to keep him, but we're not going to just show up in New York for you just to say no.
Right.
And, like I told you, there was a time where it was, okay, what is the number? Give us a feel. Well, can't talk to JB. He's going to a wedding. And that was pretty much the last we heard. Our lawyer,
Yeah, Cuba's wedding. So that was, like I said, from my point of view. And so once we got the number from the Knicks, right? Once we got the number from the Knicks and everything, like I said, I'm gonna keep saying this, from Jalen Brunson's point of view, I didn't hear anything else from the Mavericks, right? And it wasn't from the Mavericks. It was my agent saying to me, "Oh, like they're not giving us a number," and all that in the third. And so, yeah,
we weren't hearing back from there, right? We were like, give us a range. What's the number? We put up a number. They said too low. And then they were like, well, where do we need to be? We were hoping we'd have a home court advantage, right?
It wouldn't shock me if Mark Cuban still put up that 55. Mark Cuban did not want to put up a too high of a number. Just admit that, Mark. The Knicks shocked you during that 2022 draft. They caught you by surprise. You didn't think they was going to free up 100 or even offer up 100.
Right. He'd been here, 4 years, at least give us that opportunity. And then when it came down to it and it looked like you were going to go to the Knicks, so it was like, well, really the only number that's going to make it work is a max out contract. And that was the last of it.
And for Mark, he won't admit, that move hurt him. It hurt him a lot because the following season, they went from making the Western Conference to tanking. And they had to kind of reorganize, and a last-minute bailout was taking advantage of what was going on in Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving. And good for them. We see how it's working out now. But make no mistake about it, them losing Jalen Brunson is a blow. They had to fucking tank the next season. That's how bad shit got.
And then I think Mark and I, like we were on separate podcasts. Like he said some stuff, I said some stuff, all right, and then we decided to actually have a conversation together, work stuff out, and then boom, here we are. So
I mean, it is what it is. No hard feelings, behind both of us. I don't hold grudges or anything. There's no grudge to hold, right?
Mark, the report is out. You held a grudge. You were upset over that. Brian Windhorst is the one that dropped it. He filed tampering charges against the Knicks, claiming that they negotiated early, and the league actually docks the Knicks a second-round pick. Cuban has a long history of doing things like this. There was an NBA Finals series where he hired his own private investigation to look at the officials. So, Mark, yeah, we know you hold grudges.
JB and I have always gotten along, right? I don't think, and so I'm happy for him. It didn't work out the way I thought it would. I mean, honestly,
you guys made the conference finals, so I think it worked out pretty well.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, like I remember, we all went. Ali
you guys
was
made the finals. Excuse me. The finals. Excuse me.
Yeah, the finals this year. Yeah, I mean, but
again, that's after they fucking tanked, Jalen. Keep it a buck. They got Luka on their team, and they had to tank. Then they had to make a blockbuster trade with the Hornets, giving away a bunch of role players that they signed to get PJ Washington, etc. Shit, they were even desperate enough to go out and get Kyle Kuzma. The only reason he's not on the Mavs is because he rejected the trade. He didn't want to go over there.
It worked out great for both parties.
Yeah, I mean,
it worked out great.
But I literally remember we were, after one of the games in Utah, the bunch of us was walking back. Ali was there, and we were talking and everything. I thought, okay, we're going to figure this out, and we'll make all this happen. And so to me, that's kind of where I didn't.
At that point in Utah, it's already too late. Jalen was balling out of his mind, and that $55 million a year, that was Jalen's price. He spoke on it before. I'm surprised they didn't touch base on it here because the amount was super low compared to what he got. But Mark Cuban had a first dibs at it, and for him, he had an inkling that he perhaps could get Jalen Brunson at an even lower amount.
I don't know. I thought it would work. I honestly thought it would work out. I really, really, really did. But it didn't, and that's okay. All's well that ends well. I'm happy for you, the king of New York, and I'm happy for us. It is what it is. That's the NBA.
Yeah. The only thing that I didn't like about the whole situation was when Mark said, when the parents got involved, that's when things got messy. So that was the one thing I was like, I kind of was like, damn, that was a little jab. But
it wasn't really. No, I didn't want to go there here, right? It wasn't a jab at all. I mean, there's no reason for us to talk about any of that stuff, but it wasn't just a jab, JB, for real.
No, I'm just saying. Well, that's when I heard that. That's what maybe I felt a little certain way, but I got over it.
It's like the way it comes off. It's almost like Mark is implying that there was interference, because as they said before, his father had already signed with the Knicks before negotiations were supposed to take place. So Mark was sort of implying that the Knicks were involved, but it was through his father.
Right. Obviously, that's my parents.
Yeah.
So,
and I apologize. I think put you in a certain way that wasn't the intention, but it was hard to deal with. It was unique.
Oh, it was the intention. It was the intention. Cuban knew how the media would pick that up.
It was a unique negotiation in a lot of different ways.
I would say it's the same negotiation that we just went through with Isaiah. I would say it's pretty similar.
In some respect, yeah. I'm sure it was. I mean, I don't know the details, but yeah, it may well be.
Yeah, but it's over and done with.
Yep.
We're here now, and that's that.
And now we're going to hear directly from the horse's mouth himself, Rick Brunson, on how the situation played out with Mark Cuban. And Rick Brunson has been a journeyman in the NBA for over 10 years straight, hopping from team to team. So he has great firsthand experience with these type of negotiations, and he knows what they're all about. Journeymen in the NBA sometimes go underappreciated because there is a lot of mental fortitude they need to keep pushing on. They're always on the brinks of just not being in the league versus being in the league. Then they might get traded or be included in certain packages. Then they have ownership telling them that, okay, we want to keep you for next year, but then they end up signing to a different team or getting shipped out. So it's a constant battle, not only with the game, but but also with themselves. So we see where a lot of Brunson's strong mental fortitude comes from.
So we had Mark Cuban on the pod, and
Mark Cuban.
I told him about the whole entire situation that we had in Dallas or whatever. All right, say what you want, anything about it. Only part I didn't like is when he said the part when the parents got involved is when things got messy. Right?
Yeah.
I think he was talking about you.
I think he was talking.
Well, let's make it very clear. It wasn't the parents. It was me. And I didn't get involved. I've been involved. It's my son. I'm a coach first. Well, no, I'm a father first. I'm a coach. I understand the business. Mark, Rick Carlisle, Jason Kidd, loved them. They did great by him. It was a business decision on their part, and we accepted that. But to say
business decision to do what? Just so we clarify.
The business decision was they wanted you to go into free agency, and which I would have done too, to see if you're gonna get the mid-level or the 55, and then they could match it or whatever, right? That's a business decision, and I knew that. I've been in the business too long not to understand the business. So to say the parents, I didn't like that particularly because I played in this league. I understand how this works, and we were never mad at him, you know. So, but no, shout out to Mark. I like Mark Cuban, and you know, I saw Mark that summer in Vegas, and things were cool. But at the end of the day, I hear what he's saying, but he has a job to do, and my job is to protect you. Period. And if that's how he felt, I'm sure he would do the same for his kids.
Well said.
Respect.
So it is what it is. Mark Cuban took a little gamble. He ended up losing out. He had a nice sample size in Jalen Brunson's final season with the Mavericks in early November, December, when Luka was out for 10 games plus. And then, of course, during the playoffs, in the first few games going up against Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz, Brunson was just styling and profiling, man. And once the Knicks made moves a few months later during draft night, Cuban knew his ass was grass. But on the way to take his lashings, he cried like a baby and filed a complaint to the league. It is what it is. Yo, Mark Cuban. Oh, man, funny guy. You win some and you lose some. Now, ongoing narrative throughout the years has been the minutes that Thibs gives out to his players. That guys are going to break down by the end of the season, and Thibs is always overworking them. And even through the Knicks' success from last year, Thibs was still questioned about his coaching style. Articles were even released on him being NBA players' least favorite coach to play for. But at the end of the day, everywhere Thibs has gone, struggled to see success after he left. The Chicago Bulls haven't been the same since, and the Minnesota Timberwolves did not see the playoffs the following 3 seasons. But in the NBA today, things are quite interesting with the scheduling. Adam Silver has shortened up the preseason, thus cutting down on a lot of the back-to-backs, but we're seeing games every other day, and teams go through long stretches during the season without having 2 days off in a row. So in this segment right here, we'll hear from a current star who played in both eras, where the league used to have 4 games in 5 nights and longer preseasons, and how he adjusted to today's current era, where teams don't practice as much, and if players end up missing preseason and training camp, it's actually harder for them to recover, being the games are every other day. But first, we'll hear from Donte DiVincenzo as he was asked about Thibs' schedule. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Everybody says this is so much fun. Like when you hoop, you want to hoop. You want to be out there all right, what Josh Hart was doing, and I don't know about all that. Like
he went like 5 games without checking out or something, right?
Yeah, Josh is nuts, and he'll still complain about something. Like if he came out and be like, "Damn, why the hell did I come out for 30 seconds?" And but like, nah, it wasn't that. Like you just go in like, all right, let's win. And Thibs, you trust in whatever his decision is, and we were winning. Like you can't knock it. Like we were winning, and I think you get to the point where like after the season, I actually felt my body felt really good after last year. Like it wasn't at the end of the year I was like, damn, I ain't got nothing left. Like I know a lot of guys got hurt and everything, but me personally, afterwards I was like, damn, we were one game away from.
You also emptied the clip in Game 7.
I was ready to go to Boston because I think that last game is when Jalen got hurt. So if we would have won that game, I would have went through hell with Drew and Derek.
Him and Alex Brooks, they almost did.
Yeah, me and AB would have went through hell the next series.
You say something interesting about like after the season, the way you felt.
Mm-hmm.
I've obviously, my minutes have fluctuated in different seasons, right? And now I'm at this place where I'm not playing as much. Like I used to play 30, 35 and, I was playing 82 games, the whole thing. You actually build up a tolerance for the load. Like everyone talks about load management and, sit this guy out. And I'm not like knocking that, but.
And it's interesting, Duncan Robinson, who plays for Pat Riley, understands that their bodies do build up a certain tolerance. As of course, Pat Riley works his players hard down there in the Miami sweatshops. But at the end of the day, we've seen players of the past not really come into a season very early on with all these hamstring injuries and other soft tissue situations. This season, the NBA is seeing a record number of players go out real early, not even a month and a half in. And with the NBA current scheduling, with teams playing every other day, going weeks at a time without 2 days off, when are those players coming back from injury gonna have enough time to rev up? Because make no mistake, in those off days, outside of traveling, a lot of these teams are just doing walkthroughs. The practice time is super limited or it's even non-existent at times.
There is a downside to that in that you're not building the actual resistance to withstand that. So when you get to a point in the season, like playoffs are a physical grind. You're not playing back-to-backs, but you're playing every other, mostly, unless you're traveling in between. And if you haven't built up that tolerance to extend your minutes to 40 or whatever, if you're a starter, then all of a sudden you're doing it for the first time, your body's feeling different. Like it's so you guys, it's funny. I know you guys did have injuries, but you guys could like tolerate it as much as anybody.
Well, that's the thing is like early on, my body actually felt worse in terms of soreness and this and that. Cause like, everybody's like, Donte, you played, what you just said, you played X amount of minutes, but like early on in the season, I wasn't playing. Like I wasn't playing a lot. So like it evened out at the end of the year, but throughout the year, you just build up a tolerance. And at the end of the year, you're like, Thibs gets this rap of, practice. But bro, we were playing, day off, playing, come and watch film, playing. Like there's only so much you can do. Like
Donte right there confirming what a lot of us already know. Teams are barely practicing, even with coaches that are known for working guys hard in practice. There is barely any time to practice. I don't know why Adam Silver has the NBA schedule this way. Game rest, weeks, months at a time, and then 2 days off on a random week. And then it's going to be another 6 weeks of game, day off. I mean, for some of these trips, there's going to be barely enough time to even get the travel off and get sleep. So that's why we're seeing a lot of players of today with even modern medicine and all the science we're hearing all the time from Adam Silver, the science. All of those things, including with the plenty of rest time that players get, it's not working. Guys are getting hurt even more.
I will say, like, he tries to get the most out of every single day, but it's not, running up and down and then go play for it. If we were doing that, I wouldn't been able. There's no way you can.
What's your like favorite recovery regimen? I'm trying to steal something right now, so.
To be honest with you, I kind of go in on every off day. I'm a big kind of cold tub guy. I like to just get the body moving for a little bit. I go in and get some shots up, and it really changed last year. I think with having the success that I was having, it kind of changed stuff for me. Even when I was, I go to a game and like I said, I'm getting 10 up and I might go 0 for 10, but there's 10 going up. And I was still going the next day, shoot my shots, get in the cold tub, get my body work, and then go home and chill with the fam. But there was no secret. I just like going in.
So think about Josh Hart. Last season, the ongoing narrative was that he was getting way too many minutes. DiVincenzo is letting you know guys will not last that long if the team was practicing hard on off days. So just with the way the scheduling is, when do players actually build up a sort of calluses to last long and deal with the 82 games and then deal with the intensity going into the playoffs? The deeper you go, the more intense the games are. It's an interesting situation to be in. But Paul George also spoke on this, as he is a player that has participated in the league in 2 different eras. And Adam Silver implemented these rules in the 2016 collective bargaining agreement, where he shortened up the preseason, and this was the brand new scheduling with the game, rest, game, rest, game, rest. But when PG first came in, he was used to the 4 games and 5 nights, and then sometimes teams would even have a rest day from a Monday through a Thursday and have a Friday game. So he spoke on the difference and gave great insight. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I think it starts off like when I first came in the league, and you know, you came in the league a lot longer than I did. Not trying to age you at all, JJ. But you know, when I came in the league, like, and I went to a blue collar team that worked extremely hard. That was like the norm, like practicing hard. You know, the 2-a-days on training camp, like that was just like, that was the norm to me. And I enjoyed it and I loved it because it helped prepare me mentally. It helped prepare me physically. Like it prepared my body for what was to come in a long season. And I think now they're like, teams don't really practice, you know, we're not.
And also teams don't have those 2-a-days before training camp. It's rare. It's a shortened preseason, so those 2-a-days, it doesn't happen as often as it should.
Up and down, you know, there's just, it's a lost art when it comes to that hard practicing. And I think that's why there's so many injuries that's going on, because guys that have a high load day and then a completely off day and then a high load day. You know, back then it was, you practice hard, you got a game. You practice hard, you got a game. Then you might have a day off. Then you come right back to it. So I feel like your body just built the callus and that you were prepared for a long and rough season, to where injuries, like, you know, there wasn't that many injuries. There wasn't time to take a load off because you felt good to play. You know what I mean? And I think now it's just, it's tough. It's tough because it's almost the reverse. They think by giving us time off, it's helped managing our bodies. But in honesty, I think it's just making us weaker as players without putting that load and strain to our bodies.
One other thing I want to note on that, because I think it's a great point in terms of the practice load then leading to the game. And you've played now 2 seasons. This is your 2nd season since I retired. So you've experienced this new schedule. And by new schedule, I mean, maybe it was 18, maybe it was 19, but somewhere around that time period, there was an emphasis with the scheduling around eliminating as many 4 and 5 nights, which I don't even know if they exist anymore, eliminating 5 and 7 nights, eliminating 3 and 4 nights. And on paper, I think it sounds great. I really do. I like that idea. The problem is, prior to them changing that, you would play 5 and 7, and maybe you finish on a Monday. You probably wouldn't play again till Friday. There was time to recover from nagging injuries. I can remember with Doc, you know, Doc was great about giving us days off when we needed them, and we would have a Monday game in LA and not play again till Saturday, let's say, and he'd say, I'll see you guys Thursday. And we would go in knowing Thursday and Friday are going to be hard practices, but now I get a little break here to recover. And you go in the gym, maybe you do your maintenance work, maybe you do your training table work, maybe you get your shots, but there was time. And now with the current schedule, it feels like it's game, day off, game, day off. There's no long breaks during the season where you have multiple days. I can't remember if it was T. Lou, but I know it was one of the coaches over this weekend. They said to me, they're like, we haven't had a 2-day break between games in over 7 weeks. All-Star aside, it was back to like December before there was a 2-day break between games. Do you sense that sort of lack of longer time between games?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's tough on our schedules because we just recently, like last month, I think is when we first started getting 2-day breaks in between going into the All-Star break. But before then, we were every other day, if not a back-to-back. And like it's no like I don't want to say it's Clippers' fault or like I'm not saying that T. Lue doesn't practice us, but it is hard based off of our schedule of playing every other day to get good practice days in on that note, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just the way the schedule is. Like they made it not so many games in a week span, but we're still every other day, which is, I almost would do more games in the front and then get a little break, because those breaks, like as much as it is physically, it's a good mental to get away from the game for like 2 days and then come back, and know, all right, now we got another stretch.
And now we're seeing a little bit of the flaw of the science. Sometimes their measuring stick for when they first start off the experiment is already, it's wrong. It's wrong off rip. And the measuring stick was a lot of the behind the scenes people probably didn't factor in that the rest period for a regular person should not be the same for these guys that are going through 82 games plus travel plus playoffs. They might have measured the quote unquote science, like Adam Silver loved to say, where they started off at was already wrong. There might be a scientific term for it. It's almost like starting a chemistry experiment, but the measurements off rip are already wrong. There's a term for that. I can't think of it at the moment, but you guys get what I'm going at. And this right now is hurting the league. It is hurting the league. Guys are getting way too many injuries. And this season, I've never really seen it like that in all my years of watching the league. Just this many guys hurt, a lot of soft tissue injuries, and the league is for sure going to have to take a look at this scheduling.
That was the way we looked at it as in Indiana. Like, all right, let's win this 5 out of 7. We got 2 days to recoup, and then let's target this next week. Let's target this, 4 out of 6 this week. You know what I mean? And it's a different game, man. We're adjusting to it and we're trying to figure it out. But I think it is a different game from what we used to play.
So great insight by PG and also Donte. Donte actually confirming that guys are not going as hard in practice. That's why they're lasting so long. So we got to look at sometimes the minutes that Josh Hart logs in a little bit different, understanding that these practices for the most part are just walkthroughs and them just probably just working out in the gym, doing a little running, doing cardio, but they're not practicing hard and then playing 40 plus minutes. The media overblown Josh Hart's minutes last season. It added more fuel to the fire that Thibs actually burns out his players. But as Paul George stated, it's hard to get a practice in when it's game, rest. So just taking a step back and looking at it, Thibs might be using the games as almost a way to get these guys built up to last longer going through the playoffs. The Knicks starters right now are logging in a lot of minutes. We also got to factor in the practices are limited. So just something to keep in mind. But knock on wood, if guys get injured, you see how hard and difficult it is for them to rev up the engines and sort of get back in stride, because who they're really going to go hard at in game speed during practice when there's a game every other day. So we'll see how it plays out. Adam Silver has a lot on his hands, and he cannot afford these stars to be getting hurt while going into a new TV deal. And for a lot of the media members, stop hating on Thibs. So New York City's own Obi Toppin had did a sit down with Theo Pinson where he reflected on his time while playing for the Knicks. And let's not forget, his entry into the NBA ecosystem happened at a very unique time. He's part of the 2020 bubble draft, in which teams really didn't have an opportunity to really see how players perform. There was a lot of protocols in order for a lot of people to be in the same room, as the world was going through a pandemic. And most importantly, it was very rare that NBA players were going to get 8 months off. And in that time span, Julius Randle was able to get into the lab from early March all the way to the Knicks played again in mid-December. And that's pretty much something that's going to be rare to see ever happen again But with all that time off, Randle was able to revamp his game and have himself a breakout season for the 2021 year. But sometimes the positives do come with the negatives, as that breakout season did create a bit of confusion as Obi Toppin struggled to get consistent minutes throughout the season, and him being Leon Rose's first experiment into his Knicks era caused frustrations to grow as the seasons mounted. But at the end, the Knicks did right by Obi Toppin by placing him in a great situation in Indiana with a team that plays in his style. But you guys check it out as Obi Toppin reflected on his time in New York, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Damn, I really thought I was going to Cleveland. I
Really?
ain't gonna lie. Yeah. Like, it's crazy too, because everybody dating thought I was going to Cleveland. They was going to turn up. Like, there was a video dating campus. Everybody was watching the draft. They said Cleveland. They said damn, what's bro name? Okoro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He got picked. Everybody like, oh no, we wanted Obi.
Yeah, that would have been.
But
nice.
then it's crazy because as soon as I seen that pick happen, I was like, oh, we going to New York.
Yeah.
It's up. Like,
I know
from
you
New
was
York, grew up a Knicks fan.
Talk about the night, bro. Just talk about the draft night of
Yes.
just like you with your family,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you dreamed of.
Yeah, facts.
You living out your dream, and you on the clock.
Yeah.
And New York's right there.
Bruh, on the clock. And
then you playing with arguably one of the best players ever to be created, Theo, that year. That shit crazy, bro. That shit is fucking nuts, bro.
That's real
That
shit.
shit crazy, bro. Like, it's a true blessing, bro. You really had a blessed
Theo
life,
and
bro.
Jared Harper.
Yeah, bro. Like,
we
hey,
had
listen,
some two killers on our team.
Two killers ain't touched the fucking court. They ain't even know about us. I fucking love New York.
Yeah, I
though.
used to bust all ass in practice.
What, man? Hey, look.
Nah, I ain't
that
gonna
shit's
lie.
crazy, bro.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That night was insane because it's like my name was called. My little crybaby ass was crying, but it's like, bruh, emotions started pouring because it's like, bruh, all the work that you put in, sacrifices you make to be in that position, bruh, that shit just hit.
And the city felt Obi for that. The city really did. It meant a lot to him, and it's almost like living out the Derrick Rose dream, drafted by his city and winning MVP. That's why his player's profile is so important in Chicago. He does not have the most accolades, but he is the most celebrated. And to be drafted by your hometown team is something else. But Obi crying during draft night, we understood. It meant a lot to him.
It was like I was trying to hold that shit back. I ain't trying to cry on TV. Like, I'm trying to hold that shit back, and then that shit just dripped. I'm looking to my right. We in one of the buildings, skyscrapers in New York City. I'm looking to my right outside the window. It's motherfucking MSG right there, and they got a picture of me up already. Like,
crazy.
Welcome to New York. And I'm like, bruh, this shit was crazy, bruh.
Yeah.
That shit hit. As soon as I heard my name called, I was like, damn, we in the NBA. Then I got to the facility, seen my jersey. I just held that shit for like 30 minutes, like, damn. Just say Toppin on the back of a New York Knicks jersey.
That's elite, bro.
Jones crazy. We still got a Toppin in New York, though.
For sure. You watching Knicks your whole life.
Yeah, facts.
Crazy, bro. It's an unbelievable feeling. And then talk about just playing for the New York Knicks. What you get 4 there?
3.
3.5?
Nah, 3.
No, just 3.
Because that's summer I came to Indy.
Yeah. So you get 3 years
best
in
thing
New
that
York.
happens.
Yeah.
I love it out here.
3 years in New York, bro. Talk about playing for that franchise and just
Yeah.
let's just go off the rookie year. Let's start with the rookie year. Rookie year, bro. Me and you, we had a lot of conversations.
I was the airball king that year.
A lot of ups and downs for my boy. Lot of ups and downs. We knew. It was like a tell-all. Obi first shot
was
an air ball. He was throwing that shit over the rim every damn time.
I thought I was hitting the weight room too much,
Hey,
boy.
listen, it was one of those things where we were like, Obi, just get it out the way. He'd throw that motherfucker, go right over the rim, play the clip.
If I airball, bro, don't play that clip, bro. I knew if I airballed in warm-ups, I was gonna have a great game.
It's so funny because I've expected Obi to actually jump too early. That's something that a lot of rookies struggle with. They jump way too early and they end up doing almost a Patrick Ewing finger roll just in their first few games. But him getting adjusted to the three-point line, it's not an uncommon story. Pacom Dadier actually went through the same thing in Summer League.
Because it's like whenever I airballed, I made the next one.
Yeah.
Always.
No.
So it's like
in the game too.
I wish I airballed and won. Don't say in the game.
In the game too. That motherfucker, bruh. Obi would catch that motherfucker in the corner. He'll rush that shit.
That shit would hit the other corner.
That shit go on the other side of the goal. But all right, he ready now. He comfortable. He comfortable. He good now.
I need to get that jitters out, huh?
Boy, get the jitters out. He go out there.
I used to bust y'all last ones though.
No, he definitely did. Obi would listen. Obi, different player when he played one-on-one.
I was getting tortured that year.
That was his welcome to NBA moment.
Yeah. Facts.
Obi, listen, I was a two-way. I wasn't even going through the shit he was going through. They was putting Obi through the ringer, boy.
Bruh.
When I tell you running sprints.
I thought I was a cross-country runner.
Bruh, he was doing so much, bruh. I was like,
damn. I ran like 410s a day.
Easy. I was like, yeah. You
KP was like, that's your warm-up.
Yeah.
That's why when we had that running test, that joint was easy. I was just cruising through them.
And the crazy part was, Obi did the shit before games.
Bruh. Who was it? Who was it? Cameron Payne.
Yeah.
That boy, we about to play them.
Now, it makes sense he did it before games because that's when teams are really having a difficult time getting practices in. Not only with the brand new scheduling a game every other day, but also going through the protocols. Not too many people could be in the room at the same time due to the situation with the pandemic. So it made sense why they tried to run him a lot because he wasn't getting a lot of minutes at the end of the day, and him getting out of shape, it would have not been a good situation because Julius Randle, he came into that season shredded and he was ready to kill.
Came up to me at half court. He was like, after my work, he said, nigga, you got in trouble? I said, what you mean? He said, you running sprints before the game? I said, bro, that's my warm-up game.
Unbelievable
I got to do it.
It was sick work going on. Sick work going on.
I had a calf strain that year, man.
Bruh, hey, listen.
Tortured that
Obi
year.
went through it rookie year.
Yeah. Facts.
Where did you feel like you got comfortable, though? Because you start playing better towards the end of the year.
At the end of that year?
Yeah. Where did you think you like, okay, you're turning the corner?
Yeah, when I stopped airballing. Hey, you gotta play that back to back, side to side.
Hey, when he stopped airballing, I was like, oh, he here.
That percentage started going up.
Listen, when Obi started hitting the rim on the first one, I said, oh shit, he done figured it out.
I done played every superstar that's in the NBA already, so I'm like, all right, bet I done got them jitters out the way.
Yeah.
Now it's just me hooping.
Bro.
That's it.
We saw some unbelievable shit rookie year. That nigga Jew?
Bro, that dude was wilding. Bro, I thought he was the greatest player that year. And that's no neck. That's just my bad, but
no Diddy.
No Diddy.
But that one,
he was
on.
No Diddy. Wow. Yeah, that shit crazy. But Julius, we're never gonna see that again. The fact that an NBA player got that much time off, because keep in mind the Knicks in 2019, they were not making the playoffs. And Julius just had all that off time from early March, from when the NBA shut down to when they came back early in December. He had all that time to break his game down and build it back up. Super rare for an NBA player to have 8 months off like that during their career. Just 8 months off to lock in, not even injured. That's just crazy.
On some different
bugging out.
He was on some different shit.
I thought he was gonna be an MVP candidate for real.
Sure.
Was he?
Bro, he should have.
Yeah,
we were number 4 seed.
Bro, he was
He
bugging.
easily should have been an MVP candidate.
Yeah, he was bugging. Triple-double left and right. I'm like, damn.
He used to do the fucking fade.
Yeah, I used to be like,
nuts,
damn, little arm, a little hand.
He
couldn't grip the ball to save his life. He was cashing shit
that
though.
shit was crazy, bro. I'm trying to think. I'm like,
nah, he a good dude though.
no, unbelievable
Great
person.
dude.
Unbelievable
Facts.
person. It was
Facts.
crazy because I'm sitting here like, we were on the team where they ain't been to the playoffs.
That was the first year in like a minute. Like,
bro,
how many years you think?
what was that? What was that?
I don't
for
want
you?
to say an outrageous number,
I think
but I think it was like
2014. I think 2014 was the last time they went, and when was it? 2020?
For like 6-7 years.
Yeah, like it was crazy, bro.
Something like
Yeah, that's facts. Unbelievable. And that threw a wrench in Leon Rose's plan. Like, they didn't really see that coming along because they went out and drafted Obi when they had a team option on Julius Randle. So initially when he showed up to the Knicks, they weren't fully committed to him. They gave him kind of a short-term deal. And him having that breakout season, the team kind of just skipped forward in their rebuilding process. And all of a sudden, the next season had playoff expectations again. This Leon Rose era was very interesting in the beginning because not only this situation catapulted their rebuilding process, but also them quickly jumping into grabbing Evan Fournier. Kind of fucked up their situation a bit, but Leon Rose was able to make his pivots.
It was crazy. So I'm sitting here like, what was it like for you playing in a playoff game
first
in Madison Square Garden?
Bro, you remember the dunk that got me going for real?
Bro, play the clip.
AB threw the lob.
I lost my mind.
They showed Mom Dukes on the TV. She thought she still thinks she famous off of that joint.
Bruh.
Mom Dukes started crying. I'm like, oh yeah.
That shit
Crowd
was
started chanting
insane,
OB.
Bro.
I was like, MSG chanting OB. Like it's up.
I'm gonna be honest, bro. I think that was your coming out party.
Probably.
Cause you was hooping.
Crazy. I scored like 6 points that game and thought I had like 30.
But you were consistent the whole series.
Yeah. I was just doing my job. Coming in there for my 5-6 minutes to give Jew a breath.
You did your work.
Did my job. That's it.
And you were efficient as fuck every time you went in there.
Jew got his breath and was able to get back to what he was doing best. I did my job. That's it.
That dunk was
Hell yeah, that sounds like Thibs minutes, 5-6 minutes. You lucky he didn't give you 40 seconds.
crazy as hell, though.
Nah, yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out. Let's go ahead and talk about it. It's over with now. That nigga Trey, bruh, what he did to us, Trey Young, diabolical. It wasn't shit we could do with him.
Bro, it's crazy because it was like Frank was on the bench most of the game. Legs numb. He tired.
We put him in there.
We put him in the last.
We put him out there
10 seconds of the game.
There goes that Thibs, 40 seconds. We'll give you 40 seconds to play. Yo, he did Frank dirty putting him against Trey. Trey was hot. I'm not going to lie. It still fucked Trey Young, though, but damn. Woo, Thibs did Frank dirty. Frank had to come in there with like the Superman legs, not even warmed up.
Against the hottest nigga on the court.
We put him out there to die.
On the island. Damn.
He put us to hell.
Trey come to the Garden, he go stupid.
Yeah.
Everybody come to the Garden, they go stupid.
He put us through hell.
Yeah.
But then the next year, you get a little more comfortable. You still on the same role.
Summer League. Play Summer League.
Ooh. Obi right there that second time around with Summer League. That's exactly what you want to see out of your young players. You want to see them dominate Summer League like that in their sophomore year. Then you know they're ready. Showing that there's a major gap between them and the guys that are on that level. And Obi for sure, he was showing out.
Hooping. At that point, you like, hey,
I'm thinking
I gotta get more clock.
I'm thinking I'm playing with you.
Yeah. This is what.
Yo, Thibs put a stop to that for sure. But Quentin Grimes also, he was balling out in that Summer League. He was ranked overall as one of the best players that summer. But Obi definitely. Obi was killing it, man. Just, you've seen the growth. And that's what us Knicks fans love to see. And this season, we're seeing it play out with Deuce McBride. It's a different type of love you get in the Garden when it's homegrown and it went through the Knicks in-house development.
2 punch right here.
I got back reality check.
On, bud. Hey, listen, this shit was crazy, bro. Nah, bro. I think it's one of those things where you just got to go through. I mean, you got to go through those ebbs and flows. That's how the NBA is.
Facts.
At the end of the day, you there. You got to play in Madison Square Garden.
Bro,
You've been in the playoffs every single year.
That shit's crazy. Nah, second year we didn't make it.
Oh yeah, y'all was booty second. Y'all should let me go.
You
didn't let me go.
You wasn't with us second year?
No, left. Got canned.
You was only with us 1 year?
1 year, got canned. Playoffs. Canned. Shit.
Yeah, that second year was rough. Not only the team had playoff expectations, they took a gamble on Kemba Walker knowing that his legs were more than likely cooked. Also, Derrick Rose, he was not healthy either. So the Knicks were kind of stuck without a point guard, having Julius Randle bring the ball up. And that's where you started to see the thumbs down. The team overall was just not in a good position to make sure everyone can thrive on their maximum level. Julius was not set up for any type of success that season, and Evan Fournier wasn't really quite working out as well. Even though he did have a good 3-point shooting season, it didn't translate in a way where everyone can actually be best utilized. But again, Leon Rose, he had to pivot out of that. And that pivot happened in the NBA 2022 draft, where he sent away Kemba Walker, Nerlens Noel, and Alec Burks, and freed up plenty of cap space to get Jalen Brunson. That's one hell of a pivot that even caught Mark Cuban by surprise.
You went to Boston.
Went to Boston, then
Facts.
signed with Dallas. Best thing that happened to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm still here
Dallas
in Dallas.
was lit. Yeah, you
Shout
still
out to
is.
Dallas, man. Shout out to the Mavs fans, bro. Y'all know how we do. Nah, but it's
facts.
crazy because I'm sitting here. You have those situations where you learn from. What was your biggest learning experience from the Knicks?
Yeah,
moving
yeah.
on to Indiana.
Yeah, shit, just staying patient.
Yeah.
I'm emotional or emotional dude. My fault. But
Yo, Obi is so New York, man. That's why we love him.
it's like I was never put in the position I was when I was there. I'm coming off of, like, people don't understand. You can be the best or the best dude in college, best player on your team. All of them best players on the teams is coming to the league, and they even better. They got the best of the best in the league. So it's like, you gotta understand, you're not coming to be the best player. There's minimal guys that's coming into the league doing that.
Yep.
And so you gotta come in and just know your role.
Yeah.
I felt like I was coming into the league to be a guy. Like, they told me I was gonna be that guy.
You're the
And
eighth
it's
pick.
just eighth pick, you
You're the
feel
eighth
me?
pick.
So it's like my head big. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to be in New York. I'm gonna be the main nigga.
Now that right there is interesting. He was told he was going to be the main guy, which made sense at the time. Once again, the Knicks season was cut short due to the pandemic, and they were not allowed to go into the bubble because they were not even a perennial playoff team. So they had to wait till the following season started. And that's when Randall went off and revamped his game. Randall, before that 2020 to 2021 season, he was not considered part of the future of the Knicks. He was just a guy that was there to pretty much fill in a roster spot, kind of help RJ go through the motions as he's starting to grow. But the Knicks were in the early phases of rebuilding. But once that bubble season kicked in and we saw the brand new Juju, expectations all of a sudden for the next season was playoffs or bust.
And then shit, everything hit. Like, it ain't gonna be easy. You gonna have to work. I'm not gonna lie, having to go through what I did in New York, like, I say thanks to them. Cause it's like, now it's like, I felt like I went through my hardest times there. Now it's just, I'm hooping now. I don't have to.
You're free. Happy.
Bro, what was I doing every time I messed up or
Put
something?
your head down. Yep.
Put my head down, or I'm looking at the bench.
At the bench, be like, oh shit,
I'm about to come out.
Yep.
I don't do that no more. I'm just out there hooping and just learning, being a sponge, learning the game every single day.
Yeah.
And I got great coaches now. Rick, Mike, Lloyd, JP, Jenny, all of them. Like, they're amazing. They like my coaches in college. Like, they want to see us develop. They want to see us get better every single day.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about them. So,
and I think that's dope. I think that's the biggest thing. From this pod that I want people to understand. Is just like, you're the eighth pick in the draft.
Yeah, facts.
You're supposed to feel that type of way. When you go to the league, you gotta have a little cockiness to you.
Yeah.
Where you like, I'm that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I'm the guy. I'm him. And when you go in there with that confidence, the other guys want to see that.
Right.
You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? And you
You're not scared. You're not
scared. You're not afraid of the moment because they want to see, like, all right, why are you the eighth pick?
Right.
And I saw it, and I was with you all the time. So, like, you were wanting to live up to that so much. It would hinder you. You know what I'm saying? And it, like, you got to have good vets. You got to have good people around you to try to keep
I
your
feel
head
like
on
I had
straight.
the greatest vets.
Yeah, like, you got to have guys that keep your head on straight because it ain't going to be happy and dandy all the time.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, as you can see this year, a lot of rookies ain't playing.
At all.
You know what I'm saying? You talk about from top 10, I don't know.
Shit, top 5 to 6 picks. The one out in Charlotte, the one out in Atlanta, both of them out in DC is struggling. Woo, the NBA right now it's a really talented league. Even for future rookies that are coming in down the line, there's not too many teams that they can go to today to just get a green light and do them and just average a bunch of points. That's how much talent is in the league right now. There's previous rookies that were lotteries that are battling for minutes. Then they got to worry about the second round to late first round picks that are starting to shine, like Jalen Brunson, guys like Jokic, late second round pick. And of course, we got to factor in the previous vets and the guys that are on the brink of just getting out the league. That's a lot of stiff competition going forward. And on top of all that, the talent pool is globalized. So these guys are coming from all around the world, the best of the best.
Probably playing 5-10 minutes.
Literally.
At least, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
real
So
talk.
it's a different perspective, and I think you've done a great job, as you said. You done got to the bag. I need money signs. Money signs. Money signs. Hey,
Nah, yeah.
my man
Shout
got
out
to the
Indy,
bag
bro.
for
Shout
sure.
out Indy.
And the Knicks did him right by sending him to Indy. Once again, a place that not only he can get the bag, but also a place where he can grow because that team plays in his style. So at the end of the day, Leon Rose did right by him, setting him up for future success. And once a Knick is always a Knick, so good luck to Obi Toppin. So this will be volume 2 of my series in which we cover James Dolan, and I would say the beginning building blocks of what's going to end up causing the Knicks at some point to leave MSG. And again, we're going to break this down layer by layer, as in volume 1, we've seen James Dolan beef with Adam Silver over the details of the new NBA TV deal, which ends up undercutting the whole business model of MSG Networks as the whole league overall struggles with the local TV business. And James Dolan's MSG Networks is the only self-made profitable local RSN business. Other teams like the Lakers have partnership deals with other TV networks to broadcast their games. But again, MSG Networks is what really gave the Knicks leverage over a lot of the NBA teams, pretty much the whole league overall, when it came to them not necessarily caring too much about how deep they got into the luxury tax. But as the NBA enters this new TV deal with Amazon, NBC, and ESPN, at some point during the regular season, there's going to be nationally televised games happening pretty much almost every single day of the week. And this is definitely going to have an effect on James Dolan's business model. But we're going to break this down layer by layer, and part 1 is in the description below. But first, we're going to hear what James Dolan had to say on the matter. And also, we're going to hear later on from Mark Cuban as he exposes the new business model and how owners are looking at teams going forward in the future. And he really lays out what it means to be an owner, as now they will be participating in more of the real estate business as well as the on-court business of owning a team. Like I said, we're going to break this down layer by layer. And first, we're going to start off with James Dolan. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Team sponsors and partners would no longer be protected during national broadcasts, which undercuts the premium that member team sponsors can be charged for being the sole third party promoted in a specific sponsorship category. These changes drastically increase the challenges associated with attracting and renewing vital sponsorship revenue by creating a particularly unfriendly environment for member team sponsors. The 42 million homes that have abandoned traditional paid television over an 8-year period, and how those losses, which include a 45% decline for the Knicks MSG network, have been compounded by the league's new streaming and television deals. The league's new national deal renders the regional sports networks unviable. Teams depend on revenue received from local rights fees and on increased fan engagement through high-quality broadcasts that provide dedicated and tailored coverage for local audiences. Yet the proposal threatens to completely eliminate regional sports networks without a comparable replacement offered by the league and no articulated plans to address the production and distribution vacuum that the league will inevitably create in its quest to further disrupt the RSN industry.
Now right there, James Dolan, I gotta admit, is a little tone deaf because the RSN industry is in complete shambles. You got Kevin Durant down in Phoenix every single night, is free as long as people within Arizona have an antenna. The same thing will apply for teams like the Utah Jazz. We've seen the Houston Rockets as well as the Dallas Mavericks link up with MLB teams to form their own apps to at least get their games distributed to their fans. So one of the main distributors for the NBA for teams' local games have actually filed for bankruptcy. Along with the parent company of TNT, Warner Brothers, they completely checked out of that business. So the way Adam Silver constructed the brand new TV deal is very similar to the NFL style, where each team is more accessible, in the NFL's case, publicly broadcasted, and the revenues are shared among all teams equally. And this is exactly what's rubbing James Dolan the wrong way, because he was outvoted by basically every NBA owner because their pockets are hurting in that business, except for James Dolan. Good old Jim is on an island by himself, but he had more to say.
The increased number of exclusive and non-exclusive games means that national partners would have the ability to air nearly half of the regular season and all postseason games. This reduction in available games for RSNs risks rendering the entire RSN model unviable. The inclusion of streaming partners in the proposal like Amazon Prime Video and Peacock allows fans in all NBA markets to bypass their local networks to watch certain games in their market. The proposal offers no local protections for RSN networks. We trust that our concerns are shared by many of our counterparts across the league, each of whom will be similarly impacted. The league will say that it does not matter because your franchise value will continue to rise, that contemplates you will eventually sell. Once again, pride of ownership is what is sacrificed. We are well on our way to becoming a one-size-fits-all, characterless organization. Just remember we did this on the backs of owners like Jerry Buss.
Now, it's very interesting right there that James Dolan had bought up Jerry Buss, one of the NBA owners that was really a visionary and a pioneer, as he brought in cheerleading and also the Hollywood aspect to the Los Angeles Lakers. He's sort of one of these owners that really integrated his NBA franchise within a city and highlighted the more entertainment side of what the game could bring. And the Dolan family, in a way, have been very creative on how they structured MSG Networks and created their own in-house production where they have full control of revenue coming in, thus giving them a leg up on almost 99% of the NBA pool. But the only misstep in that business model is MSG Networks being tied to cable, which has a disappearing audience, especially for younger viewers that the NBA is really targeting. And that's why the NBA has constructed their new deals with streaming, where younger audience are already on. They may have Amazon Prime. They're already on apps that have the NFL like Peacock and NBC, giving them the choice of viewing games while not necessarily being tied to cable bundling. And this has always been the flaw at MSG Networks being so tied to the cable bundle. Even now in their pivot with the New York Yankees and the Yes Network, they've consolidated and created a Gotham app where you can have both networks for $42 a month or $360 a year, which is still higher than the MLB and NBA package. Fans can just grab those and have access to more games. They still quite have not found a middle ground to getting fans the games at a decent price, while at the same time not necessarily undercutting the cable bundle, which they make a shit ton of money off of. And all this consolidation is happening after MSG in the last 8 years experienced a 45% decline. And that decline includes a number of people who subscribed to cable but didn't necessarily watch the Knicks because they were forced to grab that package. You see, that business model right there is dying, and eventually down the line it's going to be gone. And in part 1 of this series, we talked about how the Golden State Warriors actually have a whole facility around their stadium. So their owners perfectly combine the on-court revenue as well as the real estate revenue that comes with a lot of tax benefits. This is why I'm saying we're beginning to see the moving pieces that's going to contribute to the Knicks at least considering leaving MSG, because sports franchises overall have begun to tap into this ecosystem. In Atlanta, they have the Battery, which is a whole nother area of shopping, fine dining, and you can watch the games, and it's another ecosystem around the team. Same thing for Patriots Place in New England. Hell, even out in Milwaukee, they have Deer Park. And of course, by the Cowboy Stadium, they have Texas Live, which is a whole facility in itself. It's almost like a whole nother arena. And FIFA, instead of giving New York and MetLife the finals for the World Cup, they strongly consider giving it to Jerry Jones and putting it in Cowboys World because of the Texas Live facility, which they'll have a whole nother ecosystem to create revenue outside of selling tickets for the finals. Even the St. Louis Cardinals have tapped into this blueprint with Ballpark Village next to their arena. But what really puts this all together when you have the real estate, the fine dining, perhaps room for hotels where fans could fly in from around the world, come to the games, what kind of puts all this together is the gambling aspect, the pending legalization of gambling, especially in places like California, Texas. All these teams become medallions, very similar to the New York City taxis. They become medallions for possible casinos. And now you see where this is kind of going. It's almost like they want fans to take a trip. They can actually stay in a hotel, then go shopping, fine dining, and they can walk across the street to the stadium. All in one go. This is where this is headed. And of course, they're going to gamble in the same facility. And now this is where we're going to hear from Mark Cuban on why he sold the team. Keep in mind, he sold the Mavericks to major gambling operators out in Vegas. So they're jumping in, grabbing a piece of Texas real estate early. An esports franchise represent a medallion for almost having legalization of just operating an in-house casino. But let's check out what Mark Cuban had to say on what it really means in the future to be an NBA owner.
So I sold 3/4 of them, not the whole thing. I still own 27.7% for a couple of reasons. One, when I first bought in 2000, I was the tech guy in the NBA. I was the media guy. Broadcast.com just sold it. HDNet just created the very first ever high definition television network. I had every edge in every angle. Now, fast forward 24 years later, in order to sustain growth, to be able to compete with the new collective bargaining agreement, you have to have other sources of revenue. And so you see other teams, and all sports for that matter, talking about casinos, talking about doing real estate development,
all this,
hotel. That's just not me. I wasn't going to put up $2 billion to get an education on building.
And that right there is where the business is headed towards. So those of you in the tri-state area understand that MSG is on top of an MTA property. And for James Dolan to have that ecosystem, and as an arena is also operating under a old tax loophole that they're grandfathered in, and also with limited spacing, you're seeing where James Dolan is between a rock and a hard place. Again, they undercut his cash cow outside of the team, which is MSG Networks. And now he doesn't necessarily have that edge to keep up with other teams with increasing revenue, especially the Golden State Warriors. We've seen their net worth jump up almost on the same level as the Cowboys in just a few short years. But again, this is why we're seeing such frustration from James Dolan when it comes to Adam Silver and the way he's constructed everything, and James Dolan constantly going back and forth with Adam for almost every little detail. Any new changes, James Dolan's going at his neck. We've even seen him complain about the cost of the WNBA and also the in-season tournament, and also having camps around the world. These type of questionings about those budgets is really James Dolan getting under Adam Silver's skin. He's really pissed off about them undercutting MSG Networks. And with all this petty back and forth, there are other trickle downs. As we've seen, the league had investigated Rick Brunson on his promotion with the New York Knicks, and also how quickly they launched an investigation into the Jalen Brunson signing. But they didn't have that same energy when Anthony Davis had joined Clutch Sports when he played for the Pelicans, and all of a sudden he wanted to go to the Lakers. The league just didn't launch one investigation to Rick Brunson's promotion. It happened numerous times, even though he had experienced assistant coaching since the mid-2000s. Hell, even recently in 2018 with the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's a bunch of Cold War games going on, but here's Rick Brunson on his coaching experience.
I'm a coach. People forget, man. I'm a coach. I've been coaching
since 2007.
No, actually, I've been coaching before that because I never really played. So me sitting there, I used to study. If you look at any tape when I played for the Knicks, I was always sitting next to Thibs. So it was always a coach mentality. I was always trying to help my teammate. If I see things, I would tell them. So like my first year, like I felt like the whole year I'm like trying to prove myself like I'm a coach. Like I'm not his dad. That's how I took it. And I would say the only time that I get dad mode is when like he embarrassed himself. Like when he starts acting like this guy, yelling and screaming at referees. They both have that trait. And I get it. Like you could like it worse.
Rick Brunson having all that coaching experience warrants an investigation 2 times, but Anthony Davis signing up with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, all of a sudden wanting to go to the Lakers does not even warrant one investigation. It's unfortunate, but James Dolan, when it comes to his Cold War with Adam Silver, he's on an island by himself. He was outvoted by pretty much all the NBA owners, as their pockets are hurting from the local TV deals. They are not seeing the same amount of revenue as James Dolan. I believe the Lakers are one of the few teams that actually have a somewhat lucrative deal, but not on the same level as the Knicks, but they have a deal with Time Warner Cable. But again, remember, they don't have their own network where they actually see the revenue. They just get handed a check. But James Dolan, on the other hand, they have control of their whole operation. And I've always wondered how the other NBA owners always felt about James Dolan having a publicly traded company with MSG. Just the structure of that, even though the NBA is a privately owned company. Because this TV deal deeply impacts that stock evaluation. In a way, the Knicks would have to become, I don't want to say a tanking team, but they would have to be a losing team for MSG to actually have dibs on all their games. Because make no mistake about it, if the Knicks are good, Peacock, Amazon, and ESPN is going to want those games streamed on their network. And as James Dolan stated, it's going to affect their advertisers and the rates that they can get for those ads. Let's take a look at what Dolan had to say about it.
The league's proposal would also have a negative impact on the value of each member team's local sponsorships, including the delivery of camera visible benefits at as few as 23 home games, roughly 20% reduction to what was historically provided. Team sponsors and partners would no longer be protected during national broadcasts, which undercuts the premium that member team sponsors can be charged for being the sole third party promoted in a specific sponsorship category. These changes drastically increase the challenges associated with attracting and renewing vital sponsorship revenue by creating a particularly unfriendly environment for member team sponsors.
It sounds like James Dolan's going to have a tough time grabbing those MSG Lexus commercials. That's one of the sponsors right there. They're not going to be too happy actually paying the same amount for less games. And also at the same time, if the game goes national, they're going to be competing against the sponsors that ESPN have deals with. This is a very unique situation, but James Dolan definitely does not have the leverage. And with MSG being on top of an MTA property, there is definitely almost no room to expand. Everything else in the city is already tight. You start to see in the future, how is James Dolan going to be competing with other teams like the Golden State Warriors when it comes to revenue? And that's why I say this might be the start of the dominoes falling, and for MSG Networks as well as James Dolan to consider a move. But we'll see how it plays out. The Cold War between Adam Silver and James Dolan, I expect this to continue. Hell, we might get more second round draft picks taken away, and also certain personnel on the coaching staff or front office might be randomly investigated. But we'll see. These are interesting times, and for James Dolan, generational wealth definitely requires generational pivots. And last but not least, a subject I always want to touch base on is what's going on with top level talent not coming out of New York City. And when I say New York City, I'm talking about the 5 boroughs: Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, and of course, Staten Island. As in the last 4 years, there has not been a top 50 recruit coming out of the Mecca, which is unbelievable. But in this segment right here, we're going to dive deep and hear from quite a few people on what's going on in the amateur circuit, and also how these two brothers right here, Griffin Taylor and Jared Effron, are trying to alleviate this situation as they collaborated and also found major investment from guys like Carmelo Anthony, JJ Redick, Deuce McBride, Mo Harkless, Rock Nation, Taj Gibson, and countless others. And they were able to finance a 12,000 square foot warehouse in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and to make it into a great indoor state-of-the-art facility where players can not only work on their games, but they can also get great training with a 5-star weight room and also treatment. And this has been something the city has been missing for a long time, as we've seen a lot of major changes in the last 10 plus years with gentrification, a lot of commercial real estate, as well as rents going up, and the city losing a bit of its character. Can't lie about that. The city has been losing a lot of its character, not only in the arts field, but also in basketball. And with there being no hub to actually cultivate the talents that's already in the city, make no mistake about it, the talents already exist in the city. is that in the past 10 plus years, they would have to leave and go elsewhere. And again, in this segment right here, we're going to hear from quite a few people on their journey in order to get into the league, as unfortunately they had to venture out. Guys like Cole Anthony that had to leave his high school out in Queens and go to Oak Hill in Virginia. Mo Bamba out of the Bronx, he ended up going to a prep school in Pennsylvania. It's almost like Kimball Walker was the last of the Mohegans, as he stayed in the city and went to Rice High School, which ended up closing down in 2011. And quiet as kept, this has been an ongoing issue since the 80s. When New York City's product, New York City's own, people never talk about this, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar went to Powerhouse Memorial Academy, which closed down in 1984. But he is a product of the city. And it used to be the norm that players would stay and still make their way into the NBA. Before then, there was plenty of guys. Ron Artest, Kenny Anderson, who went to Archbishop out in Queens. Same thing for Kenny the Jet Smith, who is now on TNT. Rafer Alston went to high school out in Bayside, Queens. Stephon Marbury and Lance Stevenson went to high school out in Lincoln, over there by Coney Island. Same thing for Sebastian Telfair, I can't forget him. Ross Strickland out of the Bronx, and countless others. Oh, can't forget Mark Jackson. He went to high school over there out in Bishop Loughlin, Brooklyn. And the craziest thing is that only in, I would say, about a 10-year span, things quickly flipped and went the other way, where it became the norm for guys to make their way out into prep schools in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, and even parts of New England. And Fort Greene's own Taj Gibson gave great insight to this, as he was instructed by his AAU coaches to change environments as he was making his preparations to level up to getting into a Division I school and perhaps making the NBA. And Taj Gibson raised around Fort Greene projects. Those of you who come out the city already know a change of scenery can end up becoming the difference of a player becoming successful or not. But here's what Taj Gibson had to say about the differences that he's seen when he first got out to Cali versus had he stayed in New York in the preparation level. You guys check it out.
I'm out there and I'm seeing it's a different lifestyle. These guys are basically already preparing to go to the pros. The way the workouts went, the way guys were carrying it. I don't know if it was the weather. It was just a different kind of atmosphere.
And the atmosphere he's really referring to is the indoor gyms, the access to actually get better and prepare for the next level up. Now, me, myself, I've seen the differences between the basketball circuit in California and in Texas and in Florida versus what we have in the city in New York. And it's a major difference, no doubt. Indoor facilities is almost a norm in some of these places. And that's why I give major kudos to these guys, Griffin Taylor and Jared Effron, for teaming up, finding the sponsors, and getting this program off the ground, because it's something that the city definitely needs, especially when Nike hosts their tournaments, Adidas, Under Armour, and all these other athletic wear companies. When they host their tournaments, they could actually come to the city and actually go to a hub where they could play and test our city's talents. And now New York could end up becoming a spot where Nike can't wait to host their EYL events. That's really what we're missing. But right now, a lot of the responsibility really bears on the parents. So there's an entry level in order for some of the top talents to travel throughout the country and go play against other top talents. Sometimes a team will fly a player in from a different state and he'll play in a tournament all the way out in California for a weekend for one team, where sometimes the shot clock rules are different, the height of the hoop is different, and that same player will end up flying somewhere else another weekend, playing in a whole different tournament, whole different rules, a different team. And that's just one of the ways that they can get a lot of exposure. Again, this requires a lot of financial commitment from parents, and it also adds a barrier of entry among the other politics of AAU basketball, and top talent not allowed to play against other top talent because they're not sponsored by the same athletic wear company. But again, once a city incubates and has its own basketball hub, a lot of those politics could be skated around because the hub becomes more important than what the players are wearing on their feet. And also, a city's top level talent gets more exposure by being tested against other cities' top level talent. But Julius Randle actually gave great insight to this, as he was raised by a single parent and he watched his mom struggle sometimes to bring him to some of these tournaments. But lucky enough, he was blessed by a teammate and whose parents had the finances to support the whole team traveling from state to state. You guys check it out.
I read a story that when you were playing AAU, I don't know if you were 11 or 12, but your team was so good that you guys flew private.
I don't know if it was because we were so good, but yeah, we did. That was the first time I played my grade though.
Yeah.
So it's like a funny, basically how the story was is like I played up until this team called the Texas Titans started. The guy, shout out to the Trout family, amazing family that took care of a lot of people, but the dad, he was starting a team for his son. Dad was a billionaire, starting a team for his son. And basically his son was my age. He had two sons. He had one my age and one like maybe 2 years younger than me or whatever. And he was basically starting a team for his son. And, you know, people who played on the team, we were flying like the Mavericks plane.
That's
like
incredible.
Growing up as kids, you know, but the bigger thing was like in AAU, like, you know, you had to pay for everything and you're out of pocket for everything. Yeah. So like my mom being a single parent, like I used to watch her struggle to like take me to tournaments across the country and drive and all the different type of stuff. And he took care of everything. So like he took care, like obviously we were flying private, but like hotels, like parents, everything was there. So it was just like, I'm dominating my age group and I'm flying everywhere. And,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was the craziest experience of my life.
That does sound like the best.
Yeah. And then you go to high school, which was high school. That was a different team from the AAU team, right?
Yeah.
So you have to play for your high school team. You don't fly anywhere.
Yeah. We flew, but we flew American Airlines.
Yeah, Spirit.
Spirit, and actually it might have been Southwest, but yeah, it was a different kind of travel for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, the fact that your travel was taken care of, it allowed a lot of people to play against competition that they wouldn't get to play against otherwise, right?
It was crazy, man. Like it was like I couldn't, like, I don't even really know how to explain it, but like as a kid, like it was insane. Like it was like the most fun time of my life.
Yeah.
Like all you look forward to is like, all right, even like when the summer would end, like AAU season would be over with and school would start, and like, you know, basketball season probably wouldn't start again until November or December. Like that's all you look forward to, because like I'm playing with my best friends. We're traveling across the country like rock stars, like everywhere, you know what I mean? Playing against the best teams, killing, like, you know, winning tournaments all over the country, like exposure, all this different type of stuff, visiting different cities as a kid. Like it was insane. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was just like my experience growing up, you know, compared to what I was used to, like, and then to get that experience, like, man, it was like, you know, exposure is everything.
Yeah.
Opportunity is everything. And for me to be able to like see that at such a young age, that's why like I bring my son, my oldest son, like I've always brought him with me like everywhere to like games and stuff, because it's like the exposure just to be able to see like what's possible was like huge for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like to see that at a young age, it was like, even like then, like we used to go to, he had like floor seats at the Mavericks games. And like he used to bring us to the Mavericks games, and we were like kids sitting courtside at Mavericks games, and like Kobe was my favorite player.
Yeah.
So like I got to see Kobe at a young age, like, and just to see that, like it was like seeing Jesus, like, you know what I mean? So it was crazy, you know, and I think that had a lot to do, you know, with my growth and, you know, where I am today.
So that right there kind of gives you a preview of the climate that we're in right now, where there's parents that are wealthy enough to start their own AAU teams, or other players that are top level talents. To get that exposure, they got to travel to other places. Unless their city or state has a hub, which California right now has the main advantage. They have a basketball hub over there. And if things like the program work out here in New York, that can now be the basketball hub where top high school players from across the country will fly out to play against New York City's best. But the amateur circuit today is a whole nother ball game than what it used to be. Some of the players that you see in the NBA draft today, either they were lucky enough to gain a sponsor, or they had a parent who had the finances to make sure that they were flying out weekend to weekend to play against some of the best talents, either in Florida, in California, out in Texas, in Chicago. This is steadily throughout the years as New York City's basketball programs have regressed. Across the country, though, this has become the norm. But here's what Kemba Walker had to say about this initiative to keep New York City's talent home.
I feel like a lot of the kids don't stay in the city to pursue their basketball career. I feel like this could be the opportunity to get them to stick around and to have someplace to go as a safety net and as a place to get better.
Again, having a safety net for that financial barrier in case a kid doesn't have a sponsor or he doesn't have a parent who can put him on a Southwest flight to go to California or to go to Texas or go to Florida. Having that accessibility becomes really important because, as Julius Randle stated, he was one of the lucky ones. But his mom was struggling as he couldn't fly everywhere. She was driving him to tournaments. And now we're going to hear what Carmelo Anthony had to say about this program and what it really brings to the city, as he is one of the investors. And shout out to all these guys for participating in this and making this happen, because this is huge for the city. But make no mistake about it, Carmelo understands that there is a major gap between what's going on in the city and what's going on across the country. As right now he has his son in a program out in Long Island, and the level of accessibility that it has versus if his son went to a school in the city is quite different. As myself, I've attended a high school game with teams in the same division as Carmelo Anthony's son, and I've seen 4 trainers on 1 players. Teams have 8+ trainers to a team, and just the facilities they practice and train in, it's night and day. But let's see what Carmelo Anthony had to say about the launch of the program and what it brings to the city.
I've seen firsthand how access to the best gyms, training, and coaching can accelerate development. To be able to provide accessible court space and elite coaching and training under one roof to kids all across the city, it can only improve the collective talent pool coming out of New York. And if we can keep our most talented kids home instead of them leaving at younger ages to go to schools in other states and markets, it is a win for New York across the board.
And it definitely is a win for basketball talent throughout the city, all across the board. They're even going to offer charitable scholarships for children. The facility is slated to open in 2025. And also, they're going to have the breathing room to actually expand on their project, as they do own the air rights to the facility, so they could either build it up, and also they are looking to expand it into other major cities throughout the East Coast. And finally, we'll hear from Ron Niclario, the most winningest basketball coach in New York City public schools history. He's coached numerous NBA players out there coming out of Benjamin N out there in Queens. And he himself has always stated that the city has plenty of talent. They just don't have anywhere to go besides working with trainers. They have to go somewhere where they can compete at a high level, at game speed, that doesn't have double rims, as he's always saying. But Coach Ron Niclario out of Bayside, Queens has sat down with G Money and Queens Flip, and they spoke about a few things regarding New York City basketball, and also to the regards of Lenny Cook, a basketball prodigy coming out of New York City that didn't necessarily have the ecosystem around him to cultivate his talent and get up to the next level. Of course, a lot of us coming out of the city already understand the vices that the city comes with, especially for a kid with a lot of clout and a lot of money in his pocket. And when he's trying to get to the next level, there's going to be a lot of distractions that come with it. So right here, they speak on a prime example of what happens when the right ecosystem isn't fostered around a high-level talent coming out of the city. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
You know Lenny Cook, right?
Lenny's my man. I wish things could have turned out the way I thought they could have turned out for Lenny, because Lenny, would he have been an all-time great? I think this. He would have been an NBA player averaging 18 to 20 in the NBA. Well, now, if you're in the NBA and you're averaging 18 to 20, that means you're a borderline all-star, and you're probably making 15, 20, 25 million a year. So that's pretty damn good.
What was your first assessment of him when you see him play back then? Like, what do you think?
We saw you in the documentary,
I was at the LeBron game.
Oh.
And Fairleigh Dickinson, and he got caught up with the hype, and he started doing the just make a move and go, you know. But you know, unfortunately, he had people starting to come into his lives, you know, and he was living the NBA life before he got to the NBA.
Do you blame the guy that gave him that upfront money, do you blame the person that tried to recruit him or
the guy from Detroit?
Yeah, what's his name? I said his name, something Wilson. I forgot.
You know what the sad thing is? When he was at LaSalle, there was a white kid who lived up in Old Toppin. They're very, very affluent. And they kind of took Lenny in.
Yes, the mother.
She didn't need anything from Lenny if he made it big. But unfortunately, the hood mentality and I got to get it now. You know what I would have to say if I said this about Lenny Cook? Lenny's a great kid, but Lenny's the type of kid. Lenny, shut up for 1 minute, 60 seconds, and you'll make the NBA. You'll make it big in the NBA. You'll get that big contract. Shut up for 60 seconds, 1 minute. Lenny's the type of kid, after 59 seconds, will go, is it a minute yet?
Yeah, very unfortunate. And his family, unfortunately, I don't think they realize it's a little bit more than talent to make these leagues. It's about the preparation, the way you approach the game. I mean, LeBron, he was on a whole nother level, the way he approached the game. And to go back earlier, this is what Taj Gibson was talking about when he showed up to California out of Fort Greene, Brooklyn. Remember, his AAU coach out of the city told him and his mother they need to change environments. And for him to get up to the next level, he's going to have to enter into a whole ecosystem. And Taj himself had said when he showed up to California, he could not believe the preparation and the accessibility that these guys had to get up to the next level. And these are the types of environments that need to be incubated throughout the city. I believe the program is the nice first step into this. Because as Julius Randle has stated earlier, going around the country and seeing different things exposed them to the possibilities. And unfortunately for Lenny Cook, because he did stay close to home, sometimes you're around what you're already used to. And those of you coming out of the city already know how it is. But again, for myself, me seeing the facilities and everything that they have in other states with the indoor courts and some of the camps and training that they have going on, I've always stated to myself, in the 5 boroughs, we don't really have enough of this. And it makes sense why in the last 4 years, we have not seen a top 50 recruit coming out of high school in New York City.
And was LeBron more polished than him? Because that's what somebody said. Somebody said that LeBron
was more polished. LeBron was more disciplined on the court. And I think LeBron, coming from Akron, Ohio, was actually helped because he didn't have the New York City hangers-on. You know, when you're in Akron and all of a sudden the homeboys start coming around, it's a lot easier. Hey, this guy's not from here. 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 Than in New York. Because New York's like a wave. They're just coming. They're coming. It don't matter.
Now, Ron LeClario, he really understands New York City. He has coached many of players throughout the years, guys who made the league, guys who didn't. He's seen many talents come through, and he has a certain affinity for New York City kids, and he understands the environment, the ecosystem. He is a man of a certain age and experience. And right here, he gives you the perfect example of another hurdle that only New York City kids really face is the city itself. When you have all that clout and money at a young age, especially the way Lenny Cook was stunting, man, the leeches, they're going to come at you like crazy. And him falling away from his path, it's almost guaranteed.
You know? And I think also Lenny, playing in the Rucker, playing here, got caught up in the flashiness.
Caught up in the hype.
The hype that in the NBA, Skip to My Lou was Ray for Alston. He wasn't Skip to My Lou in the NBA.
So when we interviewed him, we talked to Lenny. I mean, and you know, he took accountability. But I remember seeing you on there describing, like, you know, if he stay focused and stay on the path, he could be in the NBA. And
he really, you know what?
I mean,
it's sad.
The lady that he was staying with, you know, she did take him in, and
And unfortunately, she had no understanding of what it was to be a kid to grow up in the 5 boroughs to all of a sudden have a lot of money and clout at the age of 17, 18. She had no understanding of it, because if she did, she would have been more on top of his ass. It's very unfortunate, but at the end of the day, that was not her environment. And them being out in Jersey does not really pull him away from that environment far enough.
But I would work Lenny out a lot. I would take him over Basketball City. We would work out. He was talented, but he didn't understand the game the way I hoped. Like,
You got to break that down, cause what do you mean he didn't understand?
well, like if you can get the ball and just rip through and go right, and you bite a guy and you dunk it, but you don't, you get it and you're hemming and you're hawing, and then now the defense is almost like drying cement. You know, like, yo, you didn't see that there was the guys backing off on you? Just take the shot.
That's why I always believe he was never on LeBron's level. Yo, LeBron's a basketball prodigy. He reads the game. Even if him and Lenny Cook had the same physicality, LeBron will always beat him with his mind. I would say in my lifetime, LeBron James may be the first basketball prodigy to enter into the NBA. Like, he has everything. The physical gifts, the mind, everything. But doesn't mean he's going to be the most winningest player. But he does have all the God-given tools even before the NBA experience. And for Lenny Cook, very unfortunate, man. He couldn't shake a lot of that New York City energy off of him. No humility. Talking to Kobe Bryant like that was crazy. If you guys did not see the doc, Kobe had to put him in his place. Unfortunate for Lenny, he didn't realize there's been plenty of nice players to come before him, and they made almost virtually no impact on the NBA level.
You know, you got, you know what I mean? You certain things, the game, believe it or not, the game tells you how to play, what to do. The game tells you. So, Michael Jordan, when he played against the Knicks that time, coming back from baseball, and he had like 56 points, and it's tie score, everybody knows Jordan's getting the ball. The game told Michael Jordan, when the clock was winding down, he spun, 3 guys were on him. Patrick Ewing comes over. Who's open for a layup? Bill Wennington. The game told Mike, nope, you don't shoot over 3. Just pass it to Wennington. Wennington dunked it. They win the game. That was the play that had to be made.
Another thing that never gets talked about, Michael Jordan, very high basketball IQ, but not as high as LeBron James off rip. Just the way LeBron thinks about the game is on a whole nother level, but Jordan had that high basketball IQ as well as the motor on both ends of the floor. You know, just recently in the offseason, because I don't really watch NFL or any other sports, I went back and watched a lot of the Knicks series with the Bulls, and just seeing the way Michael Jordan played, that guy was relentless on both sides of the court. And low-key, his playmaking had Scottie Pippen, especially, I think that was the 92 series. Scottie was playing out of his mind. And that's because Jordan was playing according to the flow of the game. I started to see a few differences in the way players of today kind of stat pad. Versus back then, guys were actually just playing to win the game, and just the physicality and just for them to have the breathing room to stat pad, especially in playoff situations, was not really happening like that.
You always got to play the game correct.
So in your opinion, you said at the game, the LeBron game versus Lenny Cook. What do you think happened? You know, Lenny said...
The more the game went on, the more LeBron started separating. In the beginning, Lenny, the first 5 or 6 minutes, Lenny was
he said in the beginning he played well. He said he started to get a little tired because he was hanging out and, you know...
Oh, hanging out. You know what I mean? What are you doing?
But, you know, Coach, I was kind of mad. There was a guy on there, and it was Stu, what is it?
I forgot his name.
There's a guy on there, man. I forgot. He do something for Adidas. And Stu something...
Yeah, man, listen, that's the other thing, too. That's when the sneaker company started. Like, Sonny Vaccaro was already working LeBron James to give LeBron James.
I'm going to ask you a real question, too.
You know, it's like...
And it didn't work. They were trying to work LeBron James into signing a deal, and it never worked. LeBron was thinking on a whole other level. And also going back to that game with Lenny Cook, LeBron was just scoping the game out. Once the game went on the way LeBron thought, number one, his team was not really set up to lose because he wasn't just going to shot Jack and try to compete versus Lenny Cook alone. LeBron was just reading what Lenny does, and eventually LeBron does what he does, man. It is what it is. Lenny's approach to the game is really what hurt him at the end.
Like, so everything's money.
But Coach, you got to be, Coach, hold on, Coach. Now, I want you to be real with me, because you keep it real. You from Queens. First, do you not blame Mike Harrison for giving him $350,000 and distracting him, taking advantage? Listen, can you give him the blame?
Listen. Yes, you're giving a kid. Why are you giving this kid $350,000? Are you a multi-millionaire and you feel sorry for Lenny? You're buying him.
Sheesh. Can you imagine a kid from the boroughs with $350K, a lot of clout, being known as one of the best high school players throughout the city? Man, whew, that smells like a crash out waiting to happen. My man was getting the Rich Porter love and living the Rich Porter life before even making the NBA. Sheesh.
You're trying to buy him. Figuring I give him $350,000, he might be worth $135 million. I get 10%, 13, so it's an investment. But but they're all doing it. It's like it's a shaky business. The game has gotten ugly because money has filtered down. When I was growing up, there was no money in high school. There was no money in college. The only money you made if you made the NBA. Now you got this name, image, and likeness deal in college. Guys are making money. I mean, the center on Kentucky, I heard made in name, image, and likeness deals has made $1.2 million already this year. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, a lot of these players coming through the draft, when you see them walk across that stage, that first check from the NBA team is not even the first 6-figure to 7-figure check that they'll ever cash in their life. That's the craziest part. Yo, things are wild today. But the difference is for a lot of these guys is that a lot of them are not coming out of the city. They're coming from smaller areas. But what's even crazier, a world that could kind of suck them in and distract them, even worse than New York City, is social media. That's a whole nother monster in itself. It seems like nowadays these kids have to avoid the pitfalls or just the or just instant gratitude of social media, just everybody congratulating them and just overhyping the players, or just them buying into the social media hype. For a lot of these kids, that clout is very hard to overcome. It's almost become the new drug.
And then in high school, name, image, and likeness. There's a kid on Steppenneck and a kid at Cardinal Hayes. They're getting money. Now, I understand, they can earn it, but it takes a certain person to not get poisoned by the green.
But hold on though. But it's kind of unfair, and it's a discipline though, because that's what Lenny said. Lenny said he wished he had somebody on him to teach him or discipline him to because he said that when he was living with I forget the lady's name.
Debbie.
Miss Debbie. Yeah, when he's living with Debbie and her husband, he said that he was able to get away with a lot. But if his father was around, because his parents, he said he wouldn't have done or be able to get away with it. He said that.
You know what it is too. Debbie was great, and the husband was great. But you have a kid who's 17, 18. He's not a little bit, like the discipline factor was. You just hope he naturally flowed correctly.
True.
Instead of giving him a kick in the behind.
Also, what they didn't know was the energies and the clout of just being known like that in the city. He really bought into that. Lenny was really, really into that. Just the over gratification. That shit was almost the same gratification these kids get out of social media today, except he was getting it from all 5 boroughs.
And it's hard.
Now I'm gonna ask you this question. He said, now I'm gonna ask you your opinion, Coach. Don't be biased. I'm watching you from Queens. Would you say that they intentionally not have him play LeBron when he was part of the Celtics? I want you to be honest, Coach. Was that, I think, I'm not a basketball man.
You know what?
I think it was intentionally done.
I heard that rumor.
No, what do you think? I say you heard the rumor.
Well, you know what?
Come on, Coach.
I would love for the Celtics to have played Lenny, because hopefully Lenny realized I'm in NBA summer camp as an unsigned free agent. The guy that I was supposed to be 1A, 1B, 1C, LeBron James, is playing as the first pick with a guaranteed 5-year this, Nike contract. So hopefully Lenny's pride, if he got a chance, he would have done that day what he didn't do a couple of years earlier in New Jersey.
But at the end of the day, he didn't deserve that moment. He did not put in the work enough. He did not stay focused enough on the prize. And it's very unfortunate, but just seeing the Lenny Cook documentary, his family members, and this is where Julius Randle brought up the point of making sure that his kids seen other things. His family members have never really been in a position where they had to put in work like that and just be disciplined and to get up to another level. So they didn't really have that experience to pass down to Lenny. All they really did is just overhype him, even in the documentary saying that the league kind of ripped him off. And it's really not about that at the end of the day. Just like how Taj Gibson said he went out in California and seen the real way guys were working out, preparing to get to the next level. That showed him right there that, okay, I need to get on this level. This is the way I need to approach the way I sleep, the way I work out, the way I refrain from going out, drinking alcohol, etc., etc. That type of environment was always the environment that Lenny Cook was missing.
But do you think that they might have put a
They might have.
They might have, because they felt that he could have turned up that day. And then I heard that they were trying to secure LeBron for Adidas before, right? That's what they were trying to do.
Everything was amazing with the sneaker contracts with these guys.
Hey, Coach, you know what I'm talking about, Coach. Don't be nice.
No,
I heard you a guy that talking real. They didn't want to play him. Not say who knows how he would have done.
He might have played big. Who knows? LeBron might have gotten the best of him. We don't know.
But that was his chance to have revenge.
That was a chance. That was his chance to undo what was done when they were at the Adidas ABCD camp. And he didn't get that second chance.
And sometimes you don't get that second chance. Again, Lenny Cook showed up hungover. That's how unserious he was, because LeBron James was talked about throughout that whole camp as a player who could possibly be the best guy heading into that camp. And for Lenny Cook to show up hungover, it's very unfortunate. But going back to what they were talking about, the politics with Adidas and the sponsorship companies, nowadays there's a whole financial ecosystem in the amateur circuit. And now it's more important than ever to have proper training facilities to make sure that the youth come up the right way of playing the game. In a way, the 2024 Paris Olympics kind of represented this, because the internationals are slowly closing the gap between the American-born players and the way that the NBA style is played today. There's more skill involved. Guys have to be more multifaceted. But the way that today's amateur circuit is, it's still almost about just showmanship. The best players are going to show out. AAU teams from different parts of the country are going to try to recruit the best players to come play for their teams and just show out. But Craig Robinson spoke on this, the director of the National Association of Basketball Coaches, on how youth development today is more important than ever. And there is a training and skills gap between the amateur circuit in America versus the way the internationals are coming up. International players usually practice for months at a time and play one game. Meanwhile, on the US side, they barely practice, and in a weekend, sometimes in one day, they'll play 3, 4 to 6 games. There's little camaraderie with teams. Players are playing in different tournaments with different rules, different shot clocks, different heights with the hoops. Some are 9 feet, some are 10. But you guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
The youth sports industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry now. So what you have is you have way too many people in the business of training your kid to be a college player. There's not enough raw materials out there, right? And we've gone away from basketball being a grassroots sport or an inner city sport. It is now a middle class sport. So you can't even be on the radar from a raw materials and development standpoint unless you have parents who can afford lessons and nutrition and all these youth basketball tournaments that cost tens of thousands of dollars. And the second thing is, those are all, you're training to play in these games to get highlight tapes. And what the difference is between where we used to be and where international basketball is, back in the day, we had way more practices than we had games. Now we have way more games than we have practices, and you can't develop that way. That's my opinion. That's a lot of coaches' opinion. But now we're seeing the empirical data coming in the draft. And the way Europe does it is they grab their best players and they have them practice with pros, and they have way more practice.
And on the international level, those players actually go up a level, not based off of age, but based off of skill. That's why Luka was so young playing out there in Barcelona. It's according to their skill sets, not their age. And also, they'll spend months at a time working on post-up moves. Then they'll work on jump shooting. Then they'll work on passing. That's why we're seeing players like Jokic and Luka come into the league. Those guys could dominate in the post. Their three-point shooting is on point, as well as their passing. Meanwhile, in the States, if a player is tall, they'll just have him be a center. But vice versa in Europe, a tall player like Jokic, they'll have him working on point guard skills for about a month. Even though he's clearly a center, they're going to have players working throughout all facets of the game. Even the smallest guy will be working on post-up moves. That's the difference. But on the AAU and the amateur circuit here in the States, if a player is a wing and they're a scorer, they're really just going to get the breathing room to just do them and score and just do a bunch of dribble moves. They're never really going to be taught how to post up. They're really not going to be emphasized too much on the defensive side of the ball. As in those amateur circuits, especially in the youth level, I would say around age 9, 10, 11, 12, before the age of 15, a lot of coaches just play zone defense. And that's how they kind of curb in a way teaching the young players on how to play defense. There's no man-to-man assignments. There's no real defensive responsibilities. The amateur circuit today in the States is really all about money and sponsorships.
I'll tell you, from back when 40 years ago when I was playing in Europe, you had two-a-days on every day except for the day of a game. You practiced in the morning and played a game. You practiced all the time, and that's how you got better. And that's why college was always viewed as a great stepping stone for NBA players, because you had 4 days of practice every week, and then you had games. Now, because of the way youth basketball is coming along, you know, I've got a 14-year-old and 12-year-old now. I've got 2 older kids and 2 younger kids. My 2 younger kids are in the youth basketball system. They have games every weekend, and they play 6 or 8 games on a weekend and practice twice a week. Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. It's not enough development, and you don't develop playing in the games.
And they're also playing on different teams. But hey, it is what it is. When LeBron James had went straight to the NBA out of high school, a lot of ecosystems within the amateur circuit had lost out on that money. And we seen the one and done rule be implemented, as well as Kwame Brown, low key. He was used as a poster child. Even though LeBron was in the league and other high schoolers were in the league having success, Kwame was kind of used as the poster child of why the NBA shouldn't be allowing high schoolers to come in too early. But hey, Griffin Taylor and Jared Effron definitely bringing in the program to New York City out there in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And this is a great start to actually create a real basketball hub in New York City that can not only attract internal talent, but also talent across the country to come over to the basketball Mecca almost on a pilgrimage, the same way people throughout the country make the same pilgrimage to Rucker Park. So that's all I have for today. You guys definitely check out the game film. We'll be breaking down what's going on with the Knicks throughout the regular season, as we're slowly seeing the team build up new characteristics with this whole new set of players on the roster. And definitely hit up the mailbag if you guys have any questions. And until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.